My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Electricast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Claudia Monticelli, your host for the podcast Let's Talk Soul. Today, I'm with a guest from the New York area, Momoko Uno. Momoko, say hello to our audience.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Well, she has quite a background, this woman. And I'm so pleased she took the time to talk to us. Momoko Uno is a doctor of integrative medicine, certified functional medicine practitioner, a licensed acupuncturist, board certified Chinese herbalist, and holds a master's in spiritual psychology, which is it's a first for me, with an emphasis on consciousness. Now, her practice aims to provide a holistic approach to healing with the understanding that one approach doesn't work for everyone. She's an author and writes about challenging experiences and overcoming trauma. I will list ways of contacting her under the episode description. Momoko, you are what got you into this field? Let's start with that.
Sure. So as a child, I was raised by a lovely mother, but she was very ill.
Uh-huh.
And I think that I got into this field because of watching people suffer around me and feeling helpless and wanting to be of service. And in general, it made me happy when other people were healthy and happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ooh, what is that dog I hear in the background?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's my dog. It's.
What kind of dog?
I have two dogs. I have a poodle, and I have another dog who's a mix. It's like a white fluffy dog.
I know poodles are really loud. My son has a toy poodle, and he's so afraid of the bigger dogs and starts screaming all the time. Well, now, this is interesting because, of course, it always is based on the experience that you have. But then what really drew you into spiritual psychology? Why spiritual psychology?
So I was also raised by a Buddhist mother and Zen Buddhist mother. And then I also went to a Christian school.
What
and
a
so
combination.
But my father actually was an atheist. And so I had a very interesting childhood from a religious or a spiritual perspective. And I meandered throughout my life trying to find my own truth. And I found this program when I first moved to the States. And I was just intrigued by it. I didn't even know what spiritual psychology is.
Yeah. When did you come to the States?
I moved to the U.S. in 97.
97. And where did you get this master's? I'm very curious because I want to know.
Yeah, University of Santa Monica.
Santa Monica. Okay.
Yeah,
I will take a look. a look. Well, now, so you mentioned that you need a multiple prong approach because one is not enough. So how do you work with clients, on a one-to-one basis or in groups? How does it work?
Always one-to-one.
Well, always one-to-one.
Yes. And I am a part of a group practice. So if there are, challenges that I can't work with or another approach might be necessary, I tend to refer out quite a lot.
Good.
But whatever I can do, I will. If it's within my scope of practice, then I'll treat it myself.
Yeah. Now, one of the topics that I want to talk about is what is our soul's purpose. Looking at your background, I will give you the floor. I will try to be quiet, and I will jump in to clarify. So you have the floor. What made you deal with that topic? What brought that up?
Soul's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very meaty, chewy subject, right? What our
Oh.
soul's purpose is. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not something that's so simple. And so many people that I see as my patients
Yes.
struggle with this concept of what are they doing here?
Right.
And I think it's a challenging. It's not a cookie cutter answer that I can give.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that there's such a thing as what's right and wrong. I
Right.
think we're all here on the planet for different purposes.
Uh-huh.
And to figure out whatever our own unique purpose is part of the purpose, I think.
Well, how do people figure that out?
That's a good question. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of self-reflection, I think.
Okay.
And then also in my, this is at least how I experience it myself. It has to do with following the energy of what brings us joy and love.
Okay, so the way, probably the best way I'll suggest to deal with the topic, you let me know if you're okay with this.
Yeah.
Maybe you could give us an example of you as a facilitator or a guide to someone who is learning or wants to learn their soul's purpose. Take them by the hand. Let's do it with me. Make believe that I'm your client, or you can give us, Miss X or Miss XYZ, and tell us how it worked with them.
So in general, some of the things that I first try to get out of the way
Yes.
is because there are certain blockages I think that people
Okay.
have. So usually I try to look at the blockages first before finding what's necessary to help somebody's with their purpose. But
How do you do
usually
that? How do you do
like
that?
for example, if they're struggling with addiction, for
Okay.
example, if there's any kind of emotional imbalance that tends to be impeding their ability to feel joy and love and positive feelings,
Mm-hmm.
to try to help them to navigate through that, because I do find that when people are able to drop into their joy and love, it kind of things that they weren't really in touch with beforehand tend to come to the forefront of the consciousness. Like if you're feeling a tremendous amount of anxiety and fear or agitation, frustration in your life, you just kind of feel all of those challenging negative emotions first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the byproduct of finding just a like peace of mind,
Yes,
I think the path often reveals itself.
I see. Can you be more specific and give us an example and what this person's purpose was? Give it a
Oh, sorry.
name. Okay.
All right. This is just, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that was very general. I wasn't speaking to any specific
Of course.
person, but like for example, what tends to be common that I find, at least in my practice, is that I've seen this multiple times where, like for example, there's a mother, for example, and
Yes.
they had stopped working because
Yes.
to raise children, which is it's a purpose, but
Right.
then their children were at a certain age where they didn't really need them as much.
Right.
And so they got lost, and then there was some excessive drinking or smoking weed, and to numb themselves from this discomfort of not knowing what they wanted to do with their lives.
Okay.
So we look at that, and in some cases there are people where I say that there's no real specific thing that they came to. Like for example, like my purpose is pretty clear, right? It's a very obvious thing what I thought that I wanted to do with my life. But
Okay,
for
wait,
other
wait, wait.
people,
Wait, let me stop you. You said
yeah,
my purpose is clear. It was obvious what I was supposed to do with my life. Now,
yeah.
do you equate the sole purpose with what you are meant to do, a job, your activity in life?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because I think that there are certain, in my case, it all kind of lines up nicely together, but I don't think that's the case with a lot of people.
Right.
Because I don't think people have that kind of privilege. I feel very fortunate that my soul's purpose and everything, my
Is a
career and everything
healer.
lined up.
You're a
Yeah,
healer.
it lined up, and my life is relatively simple because of that reason. Because it all fits nicely into this package, right?
Hmm.
But that's not the case for most people. I think most people really struggle with this. They're doing a job that they don't feel really aligned with, and
Okay.
trying to find meaning and purpose around that, which I think is actually really tricky to do
Well,
because we have to pay our bills.
how do you react and help those people? I mean, not everyone can just quit their jobs and do
No.
something, you know. So how do you work around that?
So it's really an individual approach in terms of helping that person find fulfillment in their lives and
Yeah.
whatever that might be. So again, to be able to find some kind of mental clarity and emotional peace
Hmm.
within, so that these answers can usually come up to the surface for themselves. And that might be, I've had people who've been working in the corporate world and they decided that they really want to help other people, like work in a soup kitchen, for example, because that gave them a lot of
Right.
fulfillment that way. So
Hmm.
I think I use the word soul's purpose very loosely.
Hmm.
But in terms of feeling more aligned with whatever it is that brings you joy and makes you feel like you're living your life in a way that's meaningful to yourself.
In love, acting it out of love.
Yes, I
Okay.
think so. That's a big part of it because when we're acting out of love, that also helps to feed us as well, not just other people. And
Yes.
I think it's a dual street of
Okay.
receiving and giving.
Yes, but it's not as general as that. It makes me think of the billionaire who is a philanthropist because he could write it off as on his tax statements. There's a fine line between the sole purpose and something that seemingly appears to be giving back and
Yeah.
bringing joy to others. When there's an economic element in the equation, it seems to be skewed, the idea of a soul's purpose. I mean, whoever works does get paid for their services. Of course, their, how can I put it? The results, for example, of your work, Momoko, goes of course goes beyond any monetary value because a person comes away with a spiritual, not awakening, I didn't want to use that word, but a strong spiritual element in their healing process.
Yeah, I don't actually know exactly what my patients would, if that's what they would get out of it, because it's not something that comes up with all my
Ah,
patients, right?
okay.
There are many patients that come to me because they need pain management, or they've got something that's a very
Yes.
physical issue
Right.
that they need to address. But, as a holistic practitioner, if somebody is coming to me because they want to deal with spiritual issues, then I have to be able to have that conversation.
Okay,
So
we're
that's
going to have that conversation now.
Mhm.
All right. When does an element become spiritual? You started by saying, um, a lot of people come to me for pain.
Mhm.
Now, but previously at the beginning of our talk, you mentioned emotional difficulties that people have, emotional hardships that involve oftentimes addiction or any kind of other pain. Can we say that pain in general has a link to a person's emotional life?
I think that that's complicated. I
Yeah.
think that sometimes yes, and then sometimes no.
Hmm.
It's not a very clear cut thing. There are certain things that people do. For example, like I have a
Hmm.
patient right now who is training for the New York City Marathon, and he's
Right.
in quite a lot of
November.
pain. You know, So he's in quite a lot of pain, and he comes in because he wants me to help with his training. But he's in
Right.
quite a lot of pain. I'm like,
Right.
okay, he's really happy doing it, but he's in a tremendous amount of physical pain.
Why does
So
he
there's
do
that.
it? Why does
I
he
don't
do
know. I don't know. But there are a lot of people that do that, right? There
Yeah.
are people who just love training for marathons, and I've had a tremendous amount of athletes.
Yeah.
So, and they just think it's the best thing ever, and they don't really complain about they're in pain. Some of them are in agony, and they still keep doing it. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't get it personally, but
I have run my fair shares of marathons, I know, but I don't push myself, so I had never had any pain. But there's a two-prong joy about running in a marathon. Running is solitude; it's solitary. When you get into a marathon or a race, it's the joy is magnified a thousandfold because everybody's in it together. And that's what causes the pain because everybody starts fast, too fast. Do they come away with a sense of healing? I'm talking about the physical pain.
oh, absolutely. So the physical pain is usually relatively easy to treat, right?
Yes,
Physical
yes,
pain is easier to treat than emotional pain. Now,
yes.
with a marathon runner, I am not really focusing so much on emotional pain until they usually get to the point that the physical pain is so bad that they need to stop, and then the stopping part is causing them emotional pain because they're
Right.
having a hard time letting go of that. And that's a different type of pain.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the person and where they are in their journey at that moment.
Do you have a story? Because podcasting is about storytelling. Do you have a story about patient, a journey that they have gone through that involved a terrible job that they could not bear anymore, and a successful solution to that, and what they went through, the hardship and the joys?
So that's quite common. Having a patient that was in a job situation that they absolutely hated.
Yeah.
It usually is because that they were working with a boss that was just horrific.
Okay.
Somebody who was dismissive and very judgmental, which is very, very difficult, and made that job extremely stressful. And so most of these people either quit or they get laid off. And
Yeah.
it's usually a huge relief when they get laid off, even though it's financially challenging.
You're right.
And eventually they have learnt from that situation that the job, even though was purposeful for them, that the people that they're working with can define the job. So that how important it is to decide who you're working with rather than what you're necessarily
What
working
you're
on.
doing.
Yeah. So that seems like something that, I've learned myself too. And then also my patients have learned too, that the environment is probably more important than the actual work itself, because amazing people can, going to work with a group of amazing people is such a joyful
Right.
experience.
Let me go to that master's in consciousness, with an emphasis on consciousness. What was that emphasis all about? What kind of tools did they give you to understand? I don't want the list of reference books, but what was the training like, the learning like?
So I did a 3-year program,
Yes.
and the first year was mostly about learning different skills and tools.
Okay.
And so that started with very simple things like their first skill, I think, was called heart-centered listening. So
Okay.
this was in 8 when I started that program. So we're going back a really long time,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure that was the first skill that they taught. And so that skill is about how to have unconditional love for somebody and to be able to listen to somebody from that level of awareness. So that was
Basic.
skill number 1.
Yes, 101.
Yeah.
And then how did it progress from there? Because that's such a fundamental key to, well, it's a key well, it's based on love, really. What progressed? Where did you progress after that?
I don't remember exactly what skill number two was, but in general, it was about learning how to not only be a counselor, but also to be able to be counseled too. So you had the opportunity to learn all these skills and practice them,
Yeah.
but also observe somebody else doing it, then also being a client yourself. So you were forced to be able to practice these skills, but on somebody else, but also on yourself too. So it was very much a experiential
Experiential.
program. But one of the big things that they talked about was being, because we have all these tremendous psychological barriers,
Right.
and to be able to see through the lens of loving,
Yes.
and to be able to psychologically work through whatever kind of resistance and also projections, how we project our own challenges onto other people and the
Yes.
environments, and to be able to see that, and to be able to work with that so that you can be more free,
Yeah.
kind of like the blockages that I was talking about before. So owning projections was a very big part of the spiritual psychology program that we did. And then also about learning how to accept challenging situations and emotions. And they worked mostly with forgiveness.
Good.
And but it's not, personally speaking, I'm not a big fan of forgiveness, but
Ah,
I do think that being able to accept
yes.
the past
Yes.
is, for me, uh, resonates more than forgiveness work.
I'm there with you on that. Um, Good or bad, but I do side with you. Um, there's something you said that made me think. Do you find, or have you ever found, that a person who's come to you didn't know how to love? Working with love, working from the heart, doing things through the lens, that's what you said, through the lens of love. Because I find that many people, that's too abstract for them.
Yes, I agree. I think a lot of people struggle with it, especially when it comes to self-love.
Mm,
There's just a tremendous amount of hatred that a lot of people have towards themselves.
yeah,
They don't have it towards other people, but it seems to be self-directed. And it is a
yeah,
foreign concept. When I talk about self-love and self-care, it's
yeah.
like I'm on an alien planet.
Oh, oh God. You talk, I know that you have publications. What is, can you give us an idea of the publications?
Sure, absolutely. So my first book is a memoir that I
Yeah.
wrote in last year. It came out, and it's actually about grief and
Ah,
overcoming grief.
mm-hmm.
So I tend to write about emotionally challenging experiences because I think that that's, grief and loss, adversity. These are all things that most of us have to go through in our life,
Yeah.
and I think that these are things that also that we don't talk enough about in
Can you give me
life.
the titles?
Yes. So the
Mhm.
first book is called 14 Days.
Ah, practical. No?
Yeah, because
Is
it
is there
was
a
14.
Subtitle or just 14 days?
Yes, there is a subtitle. I think it's called Love, Loss and Quarantine Hell, because it was a 14-day period that I spent in Australian quarantine
Ah,
when my mother passed away. And so it's a,
quarantine health. Is that what you said?
hell, hell,
Health.
hell, Hell.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Hell, quarantine hell.
Yes.
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 And this was what date?
It was in the book came out in 2023, and
Uh-huh.
the experience was in 2021.
What do you mean the experience? Oh, that you
Oh,
had, that you wrote about.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, it
Did you
happened in
write
2021.
any follow-up other books?
Yes, so my second book is a fiction,
Uh-huh.
has nothing to do with me, and it is about overcoming childhood trauma, sexual assault.
And what's the title?
That one's called Bringing Sunshine Back to My Mind.
Ah, nice. Okay, Bringing Sunshine Back to My Life. Okay.
To my mind.
Oh, to my mind. All
Yes.
right. And that was what year?
That came out earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. So I will be writing that in the description of the episode. Thank you so much for this, Momoko, this refreshing talk. I would love to have you back down the line when you write another book and have something more to say. I would love that.
Yeah, the next book actually is, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And my next book hopefully will come out in the next maybe 6 months. I'm not sure exactly what, but that's actually about, it's about the afterlife.
Ah,
Yes,
do you have
it's about the afterlife.
do you have a draft title?
I don't have a draft title. Well, right now it's just called Spirit Guides.
Okay.
It's based on Michael Newton's research.
I
I'm
see.
not sure if you know Michael Newton is,
Yeah.
but he did. Yes. So anyway, so it's about spirit guides and how there are beings apparently that help us to grow and evolve.
All right. Is there one last thing that you would say to our audience? Give them one thought to come away with, so they can start thinking about how they can find their own soul's purpose.
I think people get stuck between should and want.
Ah.
I think I should be doing this. The should is usually never where the purpose is. That's something that somebody had given to us,
Right.
told us that we should be doing. And if you focus on inside your heart and inside your loving awareness, you'll find it there.
Okay, so we shouldn't be shoulding. Thank you so much, Momoko. I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow Let's Talk Soul Podcast on Instagram. Let's Talk Soul Podcast is a production of Electrocast Media. Our executive producers are Mark Netter and Peter Rafelson. If you like our show and like what you hear, please subscribe and give us a rating wherever you enjoy podcasts. And remember, stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop exploring the depths of your soul.
For those of you who dream of a world where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony, now, for the first time, Electrocast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music.
Hey guys, it's Miriam Love here, and I want to share something very special with you. Check out my new release, All In, the Spanish remixes, out now on Electrocast Records. And always remember, be love, share love, all love.
Available now wherever you listen to music.